Hey guys, it's Callus. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a little bit different than my norm for sure. I don't really even know what to call this. It's not a Pokemon talk because I'm here totally by myself and this is not going to be an hour-long video, but I don't have any guests and this is just going to be me talking the whole time. There's not going to be any play-by-play or narration or anything like that. So I know that this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and if you want to pass on this video, I don't blame you. This is going to interest some people, it's not going to interest others. We'll see what kind of reception I get and whether or not I want to do things like this in the future. But I've been wanting to tell this story and discuss this for a while. I thought about doing something like this as a Pokemon talk, but ultimately I mean, guests can certainly answer questions, give me their opinion, and likewise, I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think and get your opinion, but really, this is kind of my story to tell. It's not really something that other people can or need to be involved in, because nobody really knows what happened other than myself and one other person. So let me tell you from my perspective about the Pokemon for Money site that that was very damn close to being a thing, but ultimately never was. So this kind of ties into a topic that I talked about not too long ago. We did a Pokemon talk, myself and two guests, about Pokemon as an esport. Is that viable? Is that conceivable? Could that ever be a thing? I don't want to rehash that whole conversation. This is not exactly the same, but I could see how somebody could make the comparison and say that it's in the same general arena. But basically, I at one point had a serious interest in making a Pokemon site in which people could play tournaments for real money. We'll get back to that in a moment, but I mean, I just want to give you guys some context to understand where I'm coming from because I don't think I'm the stereotypical Pokemon player in a lot of ways. And I think that, I mean, some people already know me and already know this information about me, but I think it might be helpful to give a little bit of context just to be safe for people who don't know me as well, maybe are more casual viewers of my channel and what have you. So, I've been playing Pokemon from the very beginning. I was playing RBY literally on the school bus in elementary school. I was literally trading with, link cable battling other kids when I was in second, third grade. I mean, I've been playing eternally. But that's the cartridge games. As far as actual competitive Pokemon, I actually ended up joining the party a little bit late. I mean, at this point, I've been around longer than a lot of people. But when I started playing competitive Pokemon in 2011, 2012 ish, some of the big names, guys like M Dragon and all the Net Battle guys, Imperfect Luck, all of them had been around before I was. And the other thing is that at that time when I picked it up, I was already in my 20s. A lot of people who play Pokemon are young, are teenagers, are 15, 16, whatever, and that's fine. But I started it from the very beginning, competitively that is, when I was already in my 20s, and now I'm a month away from turning 30. So I mean, I think I'm not the stereotypical Pokemon player in that regard. The other thing is that I have a background in professional gaming. Some of you guys know this, but I was on the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour for a number of years. I played Nationals, I played on the Pro Tour, I went all around the world, various countries, playing in what they used to call Grand Prix. They're now called Magic Fest or whatever. But I used to travel all around doing all these events, and there's a lot of money, or at least there was at the time, to be made in Magic. If you top 8 a Pro Tour, you're looking at 10 grand no matter what. And if you happen to win one, you're looking at 20, 30, 40 grand. So a lot of the time, I would be playing these games, Magic specifically, with hundreds or sometimes thousands or sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars on the line. And I also used to do what they call money drafting, which is not as popular anymore, but that's basically, that's a Magic term for doing a kind of on the side. This is not official. This is not ranked. This is just a like on the side thing between players. Basically, you would do a 3v3 team draft, and each team would wager cash against the other team. So the winning team in the team draft not only got all the cards from the draft, which you could then sell and make money, but also you'd put up whatever amount you decide on. Usually it was just a small amount, $20 a guy. I've done ones for 50 a guy, a hundo a guy. I even did one for 1,000 per guy back in the day. But 20 a guy was the normal for a long time. So, like, to me, I very much have a playing games for money kind of mentality. I got on the Magic Pro Tour for the first time when I was 16 years old. I was not afraid or intimidated. I had a huge ego, and I was used to the pressure and playing for the money from a young age. And also, I definitely have some gamble in me. I'm totally fine with playing a game like a card game with an element of luck and RNG and variance and bad matchups and all that crap. I'm totally fine putting money on that. I'm totally fine throwing down $50, dude, let's go. And I mean, again, I think context is important because I understand that everybody is in a different place in life and in a different position. I am not rich by any means. I am not wealthy. I was never wealthy. I'm not some white privileged kid or anything like that. I didn't have parents with money or anything like that. But I am in a position where I'm well enough off to where if I were to gamble $20 or $50 or whatever on any game, it doesn't have to be Pokemon. It could be we make a bet on who wins the football game or whatever it may be that we're gambling on. If I were to bet 20, 30, 40, $50, even $100, honestly, it just doesn't, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to discredit or talk down to people who are in a worse financial position than I am, but those amounts of money do not make a meaningful and significant impact on my life. They just don't. If I were to win or lose, say $50 on whatever, betting on a football game, that just wouldn't change anything for me. I would like to win, obviously. I'd prefer to win $50 as opposed to lose $50. But if I make the bet and it doesn't go my way, honestly, I'm not going to be losing sleep that night. I'm not going to be thinking about it more than 10 minutes after the fact. It's just, it is what it is. And I move on. And I understand that not everybody is in that position. So that's another thing, too. I don't take for granted that I am an adult, I work full-time, I have steady income, and I'm able to screw around with $20, $50, whatever, whereas that may not be the case for all of the Pokemon community. There are people that, for whatever reason, are in a worse financial position than I am. There are also people that are young, that don't have jobs, or what have you, where for them, $20, $50, $100 is a lot of money, and it would be a big deal if they were to lose that amount of money. So I get that. But anyway, so that's kind of the background context. So like I'm kind of the perfect guy for it because I'm a little bit older. I'm definitely someone who likes to gamble. I'm definitely someone who has confidence in myself and likes to throw down for money. And I have years and years of experience of playing games for money. So to me, this is natural. This is right up my alley. So I always wanted, once I got into competitive Pokemon, I always thought it would be really cool if there were basically tournaments where I could just, I could pay $10 to enter. It would be like an 8-man tournament, single limb, and you would just play it out, and the winner would just get the whole pot. And that's kind of what I wanted to create. They have similar things to that. Like they have Magic Online, not to be confused with Magic Arena, where you can do basically what I just said. You do a draft at an 8-person table, and only the top 2 people get paid out at the end. Only the top 2 people win packs. And you have to pay real money to get into these things. You have to actually buy the digital packs to do this. So, I mean, no, you're not being paid out in cash, but you are doing the same thing that I described. You are putting in money or the equivalent of money as an entry fee into this event, and then you are getting paid out the equivalent of money in the form of packs at the end of the event, but only if you got first or second. Everybody else loses their entry fee / their money. that interests me, and that's always interested me in Pokemon. So I wanted to make a website or a forum or some kind of outlet where this could actually be a thing. And I was serious about it, and a lot of people do not know this. I've mentioned it a couple of times casually, but I've never gotten too deep into it or gotten into the specifics. But this is what I want to do in this video because I think it's a story worth telling, and I think there's some interesting talking points. But I was actually 2 or 3 years ago, I was actually pretty far along in conversation with my who would have been my partner for this, Ace Matador, about actually making this site a reality. So real quick, Ace Matador is not somebody that I know or have ever met in real life. We don't have any kind of personal relationship, but he is a veteran player who has been around for a long time, has been playing competitively longer than I have, was in SPL for years and years, is well known within the community, and to the best of my knowledge, doesn't have any kind of sleazy or crappy reputation or whatever. He's just a veteran guy who's been around the Pokemon community for a long time. So he and I got into talks about this website. We both had a mutual interest in making this a thing. We were going to make, I mean, we went through all sorts of ideas for names or what have you. The name doesn't actually matter. But we were going to make a website where you could do exactly what I'm describing, where you could, and the specifics could vary. You could go on and it could be you want a 1v1 match in whatever tier. You want a 1v1 match in Gen 7 OU. You click, you pay the, call it, $5 entry fee. You get the match against the other guy who also put a $5 entry fee up, and then you just play. And the winner gets, say, $9. The house takes a cut, 10%, $1, and then you just move on. And then we could do that on a bigger scale too. Like I said, an 8-man tournament. Let's say everybody puts up whatever, $10 for a total of an $80 prize pool. You could do the winner gets 70 and the house gets 10, or you could do the winner gets 50 and second place gets 20 and the house gets 10. But it's the same concept. Basically, you redistribute the money. Only the first couple of guys get the money. The house takes a small cut, and that's it. And on paper, this was a great idea. This is what I always wanted, and I've talked to a bazillion Pokemon players over the years. I've met a lot of people here. Not everybody likes me in this community. I know that. That's fine, but whether it's a good conversation or a bad conversation, I've had a lot of conversations privately with people over the years. I've gotten to know a lot of people, all sorts of different backgrounds, ages, where they grew up, their cultures, all sorts of different people, which I have a great appreciation for. And certainly this website or Pokemon for Money was not the primary talking point in the majority of these situations, but it came up enough times, and it's something I talked about with enough people to where I gathered that there's some amount of interest in doing something like this. So I really wanted to go forward with it, and Ace Matador was going to be my partner, and we were going to make this actually really truly happen. Maybe make a small amount of money doing it, but that was not the goal. It was more that we actually wanted this to be a thing for the sake of enjoying Pokemon competitively and enjoying gambling. But then, when we really truly got into it, and we're very close to really doing this, we're very close to taking the steps to begin making this site a reality, some problems came up. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video. Like I said, I think there's a lot of talking points with that. I think there are some interesting things to think about that I would love comments and feedback on. And maybe if somebody else wants to take up this mission, maybe you can learn from some of the stuff that we discovered and that we went through. Some of these problems are relatively easy to solve, and other ones, in my opinion, are either very difficult or maybe even impossible to solve, and that's what I'm going to go over. So an example of like an easy problem to solve, for example, like one of the things is that both Ace Matador and myself are simply not computer experts or programming experts or whatever. I personally know little to nothing about programming, coding, building a website, any of that. That's a relatively easy problem to fix. If if we were serious about doing this and going down that road, there's options out there. There are websites, GoDaddy or what have you, that let you build your own website. There's also a bazillion companies out there that will either just build or will build and maintain your website for you if you pay them. There's also options of bringing in somebody from the inside, somebody within the Pokemon community who does know how to do this stuff, who would like to either be paid or have some percentage of the revenue or whatever to get involved in this project and deal with the website stuff. So, I mean, that would have been one of the easier things to solve. It was an initial problem because I couldn't just, myself go ahead and get started, build this website, nothing to lose because I don't know how to do that. But we could have gotten that part figured out. Some of the other problems were a little bit harder. So one thing that I realized the more I actually thought about it, because, it's easy to get excited about an idea, and it's really easy to feel your own passion and feel your own emotions and enthusiasm, because I was super in love with this idea. I loved it. This is what I wanted. I'm a gambling guy. I don't care if I lose $20, and I want to play Pokemon with some stakes other than a meaningless ladder rating or other than, hey, a pixel if you win, So it's very easy to get caught up in that, but like when I really started to sit down and think about it and go over it, it kind of became apparent to me, like, wait a minute, what is the actual audience for this? How many people would actually be interested in this? How many people would this site really have going at any given time? And the more I thought about it, the more bleak it seemed. That's kind of one of the cold realities that set in, because you have to keep in mind that the competitive Pokemon scene and community in and of itself is a very, very small fraction of the Pokemon community, of Pokemon fans. And I don't want to get too technical here. We can play word games. We can argue what Pokemon fan means. We can argue varying degrees of what the word competitive means. I don't want to play word games. For purposes of this example and this context, I'm going to define it like this. So a Pokemon fan in this context is going to be somebody who actually plays the main series cartridge games. It's not somebody, the mother of a child Pokemon player who thinks that the Pokemon are cute. It's not, the 3-year-old little sister who goes, oh, Jigglypuff is adorable. That's fine. They can like Pokemon. But for context, those are not what I'm considering Pokemon fans. Pokemon fans for this context are people who actually play the cartridge games. Okay? So within that community, people who are enough of a fan, know enough, give a shit enough to play the cartridge games, those who have the desire to play competitively is a very, very small percentage. And again, I need to define terms here. So for this context, the definition that I'm going to use for competitively is someone who gives a crap enough to learn about metagames, learn about EVs, learn about movesets, who cares enough to put the time in to enhance their skills, get better at the game, learn all the little nuances about the game and all the information that is required, and then compete against other people for, say, tournament victories or ladder prestige. And I don't mean just like playing against their friend on the school bus. I mean log on to the simulator, do what we do, get on the ladder, enter tournaments, whatever. So in context, that is a very, very, very small percentage. I don't have hard data on this. I don't think anybody does. I'm not going to start pulling numbers out my ass or making false claims. But, I mean, it has to be not even 1%. It has to be a ridiculously small fraction of the people who play cartridge games that give a shit at all, that are inclined to attempt to play competitively. Most people are casual. Most people enjoy the RPG, go catch 'em, go fill the Pokedex elements of the game. Most people are not inclined because they can't be bothered, because it's too steep of a learning curve, because it's too hardcore for them, because they enjoy the games as it is. I mean, plethora of reasons. But the very large majority of people are not inclined to try to take Pokemon seriously and treat it as something competitive. So we have to keep in mind that as it is to begin with, the entirety of our audience is a fraction of a community. It is very niche to begin with. I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't know, but I can't imagine that there are more than a few thousand competitive Pokemon players at any given time. It's just a small community. That's just the way it is. Competitive Pokemon is not even close to something like a Hearthstone or a League of Legends or whatever, where we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of million players. We're not even a fraction of that. We are a drop in the bucket compared to that. So there's such a small audience to begin with, right? Let's say this is a completely BS out my ass number. I have no inside information, but let's just say, for the sake of it, let's say there's 4,000 competitive Pokemon players at any given time. Well, then there's also the fact on top of that that some of them are, they go in and out of activity. People take breaks from the game. People quit the game. Old players go out. New players come in. So there's no hard and fast number, but it fluctuates all the time. So we have a very small number to begin with. That's like the best it could be, a couple thousand people, right? And then on top of that, we have this very small fraction, this niche community. And then on top of that, you have to slice that down even further, because within that community, there are a lot of people for a plethora of reasons that are simply not going to put money into the game. Whether they can't afford it, whether they just don't gamble on principle, whether they don't trust giving their credit card information to some sketchy third-party site, and I don't blame you, whether they just don't have the money, losing $20 would be a big deal to them and they just can't do it, or whether they're just not inclined, whether they just don't give a shit enough. They enjoy just playing ladder or playing casual tournaments or whatever, but they would never play for money because they just don't care enough. Or maybe they're too nervous. I mean, there could be a million things. But the bigger picture issue here is we have such a small potential community to begin with, and there's no way that even half the people, or even a third of the people, or God, let's be real, that even a tenth of the people would really, truly pony up and play for money. So, I mean, we're taking a community that's only a couple thousand to begin with, and we're lucky if 1 in 25 people, and that is probably a very generous number, we're lucky if 1 in 25 of those people would actually be interested in ponying up and playing for money. So all of a sudden, when you start really looking at the numbers and the scope of it, we're talking about, at best, maybe a few dozen people. So that in and of itself, kind of makes it seem not worth it, and not worth the time and effort, not worth the cost that it would take to set up this website, not worth the cost it would take to maintain the website. In and of itself, it's so niche and so small that it probably wouldn't be successful. But then, even if somehow we got the best possible numbers, even if somehow hundreds of people, or hell, 1,000 people wanted to do this, and I think that'll never happen. I think 1,000 people wanting to do this is just higher than it would ever realistically be. But then there's other problems too. There are just flat out legal problems here that perhaps Ace and I did not initially realize, but upon talking about it a little bit deeper and really thinking about it, we realize there's some issues here. I am not a lawyer or any kind of legal expert. I'm not going to pretend that I have any kind of expert knowledge in anything to do with the law or any kind of, I'm sure every state, every country, every jurisdiction, I'm sure everybody does it a little bit differently. I'm not going to pretend that I know the rules everywhere. But basically, I could see a mess waiting to happen. I could see a nightmare scenario of this being considered illegal gambling, which I know certain countries, certain states, you just flat out cannot do. Like the same way that the United States does not want you playing online poker. You could do it in Italy. You can do it in, whatever country. You could do it in Canada. There are places where you can still go on and play Poker Stars or Party Poker or any of these. The U.S. doesn't want you doing it, so you couldn't play. So I wonder, poker and Pokemon are obviously not one and the same, and you can make arguments here. I highly doubt there's any legislation that specifically talks about whether competitive Pokemon for money is allowed or not. But I think you're going down a slippery slope, and I think at best it's a gray area, and at worst you are over the line, and this might be considered gambling. I don't look at it that way. Like, I think, like, here's kind of where it gets tricky. Like, what is allowed, what is legal, this is 100% allowed, is you can pay an entry fee in a tournament, like a Magic the Gathering tournament, online or in person, and then that tournament can then pay out prizes, whether in the form of packs or cards or in the form of actual cash, and players who don't do well in the tournament, don't place well, forfeit their entry fee. That's 100% legal. So on that hand, okay, there shouldn't be a problem here. But doing it online, I think, it just requires way more work and like way more legal mumbo jumbo, insurance or covering your back in XYZ way than I know about or am willing to go into. I think it's just way over my head. I could see issues. Well, the second money gets involved, it gets messy. There's all sorts of issues. I can see a player disconnecting, their internet shitting out, and they lose the match that they think that they absolutely would have won if not for their internet. And then you get into this whole problem of, did they disconnect on purpose? Are they looking to cheat the system or try to get some kind of refund or whatever? Because, by saying that their internet went out. But wait a minute, what if their internet actually did go out? Or what if it is crystal clear that they are 1 click away or 2 clicks away? They're going to win this game, but then the internet went out. Stuff like that. How do you handle that situation? Can you really afford to go on a case-by-case basis and refund certain people but not other people? And then how does that work? So the guy who won via disconnect or via timeout or whatever, do you eliminate that guy? That guy who paid money, entered the event, did nothing wrong, and then his opponent who is in a favorable position or maybe even a locked up position disconnects and loses the game. How is it fair to the other guy to then say, okay, your opponent probably would have made the right play, you're eliminated, thanks for the $20? That in itself would be a huge problem. But then you have a problem the other way where if you just say, if you disconnect and lose, that's it. You lose, period, no matter what. That would open up a whole can of worms as well when a guy can go, well, look, I had this one. Clearly, I literally had to click one move and I won. Yeah, you could tell that guy, tough shit, hard luck. And that probably would be the way that it would have to be. But I can't imagine that that is a sustainable way to do it. And that's just one problem. How about the problem of underage gambling? I don't think it's a problem. Like almost every jurisdiction is going to allow a 25-year-old, if they want to do this. But what happens when it's a 15-year-old kid doing it? What happens when it's a kid using their mother's debit card or credit card or whatever as the entry fee, with or without permission? Or maybe they kind of sort of have permission, but the mother doesn't actually understand what it's being used on or what the kid is doing, and then upon finding out later what they used it on, that the kid lost the money, all of a sudden it's a huge problem and she's not okay with it and she wants to get the money back. I could see something like that being a giant headache. I could see all sorts of stuff. I can see someone claiming that they accidentally signed up for the wrong tournament. Oh shit, I meant to do a Gen 6 tournament. I accidentally clicked on Gen 7. I want my money back. There would just be all sorts of stuff like that. And almost always the answer for these things is tough, is you have to sign some sort of agreement beforehand. You have to accept our terms, whatever. We're not liable. If you disconnect, if you click the wrong thing, that's 100% on you. That's really the only way to handle it. But, I mean, we don't have, Ace Matador and I, if we were going to do this, we don't have a team of lawyers and experts or people to handle these kind of things. The two of us would have had to been the ones to handle all these things on a case-by-case basis, and it would have been so much hassle, so many headaches. You know, what if we accept the money via PayPal or whatever, and then someone claims that it's a fraudulent charge with their credit card provider and tries to get the money back that way? That, again, is just a huge headache and a huge pain-in-the-ass thing that we would have to deal with trying to chase somebody down for $10, $20, or something like that. It just seems like a massive headache, and like I said, I'm not even sure that this site would be fully legal to run in all jurisdictions. I think that it would be so small and so, under the radar that nobody would really truly overly care. It would have to scale to a much larger size for authorities or whatever to notice this and give a shit about this, but I'm still not convinced that running the site would be 100% legal. I think it would violate gambling laws in certain jurisdictions, and I think that could get sticky really quickly. Another problem is, in the hypothetical scenario, again, the site would be very small, I think, so it's unlikely to catch their eye, but in the hypothetical scenario that Nintendo or Game Freak or the Pokemon Company or whatever were to catch wind of this site, and they didn't like it, which I would imagine they would not, us running Pokemon tournaments for money, they could probably shut us down. They could almost certainly shut us down. I don't think we could do anything to stop that. I mean, would we really, Ace Matador and I, would we really even consider trying to get into a legal battle with this bazillion-dollar huge company? I mean, if they wanted to shut us down, if they sent us like a cease and desist, or if they were threatening to take us to court, or they sued us or whatever, we would be absolutely up a creek without a paddle. We would have zero chance to beat these guys if it came down to a legal battle. If they caught wind of this and said, you can't use our shit to profit, which we would be doing, the house would be taking a cut. You can't use our Pokemon, our characters, whatever. You can't just use that for a profit. That is 100% illegal. We're going to sue your ass. And if they did that, we'd be in some big, big, big trouble. And that kind of puts us in a tough spot, because if the house didn't take a cut, then it just wouldn't be feasible or sustainable to run this site. We would actively be losing money and putting in a lot of time and effort in order to make this site a thing, which is kind of like a lose-lose. So we're going to be down money, we're going to lose money, and we're going to put in the hours and the headaches and all the time and effort to deal with this. That's just so silly. Who would sign up for that? Who would possibly want to deal with that or think that that's a worthwhile thing to put their time, money, and effort into? There's no way, right? There's no point. The house has to take a cut, or it simply is not worth it from our end. So we did come up with a way around the, okay, you can't run tournaments for money. You are not allowed to charge, $10 per guy for tournament entry fee and then redistribute that. But I came up with a clever way around that, and we were really deep in these talks. I looked into it online. I spoke with a lawyer in real life about this. I'm not even kidding. I spoke with a lawyer about this because Ace and I really were that damn serious about making this website. And from my talks with that lawyer and from all the research that I did, to the best of my knowledge, this would have worked. This would have gotten around it and be a fully legal way to circumvent this issue. So what some websites have done in the past and still do, this is not an innovation that I came up with. This business model has been around forever. There are websites like, for Magic the Gathering, there's one called StarCityGames.com. There used to be one called BrainBurst.com, which is now called TCGPlayer.com. There's also Hearthstone equivalents of this site, and I'm sure many other games as well. But basically what they do is they have articles. They have top players of their games writing articles, and they have free ones that are available to everybody, but then they have premium articles that are only available to paying premium members. So you can pay whatever fee, you can do it however you want, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever, but you pay for a premium subscription, and that gives you access to the premium content. So we'll just use StarCityGames.com for an example. I don't have it pulled up right now. I don't know how much they charge, but basically you would pay $10 a month or whatever the hell the fee is, $5, whatever. Let's just call it 10 for the sake of keeping it simple. You pay $10 a month to be a premium member of StarCityGames.com, and when you do that, you get to read all the premium articles that would be inaccessible to other people. You click them, it's there, it's not blocked, and it gives you access to the premium content, whatever other premium features. So basically, we would rip off that model. So basically, it's a loophole where we go, well, no, we're not charging tournament entry fees. That's not legal. That's not cool. We wouldn't do that. What we're doing is we are charging you to be a premium member of our website, and we just happen to be holding these tournaments in which we're paying out money that are only open to premium members. And that's a loophole. That's one of the ways that you can get around it. So like I said, we don't directly charge tournament entry fee. We simply charge for you to choose to be a premium member of the site, and we can give you some other BS premium perks too. We can give you access to premium YouTube videos that only members can see, or premium articles or whatever if we decide to have some Pokemon guys start writing for us and you have to pay the premium fee to see the BKC article of the month or whatever it is. But it's basically all a sham. Basically, we'd be doing it for the purpose of compensating for the tournament entry fees. So $10 a month or whatever it is to be a premium member of our website, and then we have, call it 2, 3, whatever, monthly tournaments that pay out actual cash that are only open to premium members. That would be a way around it, but like I said, I mean, that brings a lot of problems too. The numbers would just have to be there. There would have to be enough people who are willing to pony up and go premium in order to justify the cost that would give us on the back end, which kind of comes back to the whole issue of, I mean, how many people are really there that would be interested in this kind of thing to begin with. And I think the audience is just too small. So basically, I mean, that's kind of the long and short of it. Between all the factors that I already discussed, between the audience in and of itself to begin with that would be interested in playing competitive Pokemon for money is so small, coupled with the fact that this is just a legal and complaint, and I want my refund, and I didn't get my money, and I didn't say my kid could do this, or hey, this kid's 15, he shouldn't be playing for money, coupled with all the headaches, coupled with the potential legal issues if we're not actually supposed to be running this site, and I don't know if we can or if we can't. Maybe it varies place to place, but it's definitely a gray area, coupled with the fact that I know that Nintendo / Game Freak / the Pokemon Company would not want this to be a thing and could and would possibly shut us down if they ever caught wind of this. Between all those factors, we ultimately decided that this is just not a sustainable idea, that it just would not be worth the time and effort and money that would be required to set it up in the first place and to subsequently maintain it. Because there's hidden costs everywhere. Someone has to build the site. You have to pay the forum and server fees to host and maintain the site. You have to get a URL. You have to hire a web / graphic artist. You have to set up some kind of payment system, which is going to take a cut. You have to be able to process the payments. You have to pay out people, which is going to either require Ace or myself doing it myself, or hiring somebody to take care of that. There's just a lot to it, and if Ace and I were making $50 a month off it, that's a joke. That's not, by a scale of 20, really worth what would have to go into it. So basically, in order for this to happen, that's kind of the way I want to wrap up this video. If this ever were to happen, and to be very, very clear, it is my conclusion after going through this whole process, talking with Ace for months and months about this, talking to a real-life lawyer, looking into about the legal stuff and what it would really take to set this up, my conclusion is that this, unless you are someone who has computer skills and has quite a bit of funding and free time behind you, this cannot be done, is my conclusion. This will never be a thing, and that is tragic news to the small group of us who maybe would like it to be. But my conclusion is this will never be a thing. But hypothetically, for talking point's sake, for argument's sake, what would need to happen for this to be a thing? The first thing is there would simply have to be more people interested in competitive Pokemon, period. Not just people who would put money into it, but just period. There would have to be enough people who would just come to the site to generate ad revenue for us, or that would give a shit enough about spectating the tournaments or seeing these top players, people who want to see ABR versus Blunder for $50, or like maybe certain guys get really into it. Maybe maybe Marco P and I don't know, somebody with some gamble in it. Maybe Marco P and Lanier are both addicts, and they both end up playing on this thing. ADV games, best of 3, $20 a whack, and you see them playing these things all night. There would have to be enough people who would be interested in actually watching these things, and of course we would make it so you can only see these matches and only see these results through our website. That would be one of the perks of being premium. But there would have to be enough people who give a shit about that to see it. And I don't know that there are. So step one would be there would simply have to be more people who are interested in competitive Pokemon as a whole than there are now. And that's a problem I don't know how to fix. That's a problem that is bigger than me. The Pokemon community is what it is. Most people are young. Most people are casual. Most people cannot envision playing this stupid aimed-at-children game with mega evolutions and, cutesy little fairy Pokemon. A lot of people can't envision playing it competitively, playing it for money, losing $100 on, oh shit, I just got frozen. And I get it. So that's problem number one, and I don't know how to fix that. Problem number two would be having the systems in place, I'm talking legally specifically, to cover your own ass. You would have to legit, if you were to really scale this and make this big, if this were going to be like a Smogon or bigger size site that really had some kind of backing to it, you would legit need to hire a lawyer or a team of lawyers to write you out a pretty spiffy couple of papers that keep you fucking covered in case shit hits the fan, because you are absolutely, because of the money aspect of it, begging for trouble. You could absolutely start a Pokemon site. Pokemon Perfect is a thing. Pokemon Online is a thing. You can absolutely start a competitive Pokemon site. You can absolutely hold tournaments. You can absolutely award trophies, all that crap. But the second you are accepting money and charging money to be part of the site, and the second you are paying out money on a regular basis, that's the whole point of the website, that is a whole different animal, and that comes with a whole bunch of issues. So you would absolutely need an expert on the law, which in and of itself is tricky because different countries do it differently, but you would need some kind of legal guy in the back to take care of it. And then third, this is another huge problem. This is another one that I don't know how you get around, but you would need enough income to make the site not only stay afloat but to be worth it. Because like I said, there are hidden costs everywhere. So there would have to be probably ad revenue somewhere. There would have to be. You probably would have to have actual writers. You would probably have to commission, a BKC, an ABR, a Blunder, an M Dragon, whoever it is, the top guys in the game. You would have to pay them some kind of fee to write you a bi-weekly article or a monthly article or do a monthly video or whatever, which again, you have to actually pay these guys, so that cuts into the bottom line. But the trade-off in theory would be that enough people give a shit to see the exclusive to this website, can't see it anywhere else, ABR team building video, that it would be worth it. That I have to pay ABR $50 to make this video, but enough people would subscribe to the site to see the video to where that is a profitable exchange. So we would have to have a pretty large staff. There'd be someone who makes the site, someone who maintains it, there'd be a legal guy, there'd be someone who deals with the payments, and then we would need not only a bunch of writers that would be paid, / content producers. It doesn't have to be a writer, it could be a writer / a video maker, so we'll call them content producers. And then we would need somebody who is organizing all of this and making sure that the content producers are getting their shit to us on time, we're getting them posted on time, all of that. It's just way more work, way more hassle, way more money than is feasible, than would be worth it. That's the bottom line. That's just what we couldn't get around. Ace and I are both gambling guys, and we both like competitive Pokemon, and neither of us are a wimp about, hey man, let's play for $20, let's play for $50. That would be a lot of fun, and both of us would be willing to do that. And we could even start like a little small, it doesn't even have to be a website. We could get a small little Discord group going of just guys who want to play for money, and we could do our own little side thing where we pay each other on the honor system via PayPal. Obviously, you kick somebody out of the group the first time they don't pay. But we could start a little Discord group or whatever for people who want to play for money. We could develop a little small 24 person play for money community. That might be feasible. But at the end of the day, making a website that does this on a full-time and regular basis, I think, A, just can't be done, and B, would not be worth it even if you were to go ahead and put the time and the effort in to make it a thing. So that is, in a nutshell, the story of the Pokemon for Money website that almost was, but never was. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about with this. Feel free to address. I want to be very clear that we're not making this website. This is all in the past, and I thought it was an interesting story. It is not something that we're at all considering. We decided against it. It's done. So, you guys are not going to convince us to go back and change our mind and make the website. It's not happening. But nevertheless, I would like to hear in the comments, if this had been a thing, honestly, truly, can you see yourself ponying up $10, $20, whatever, to enter a tournament and maybe win that money back? Would you honestly, truly be interested in entry fee Pokemon tournaments? Another thing, do you think there would be enough people who would be interested in it? Do you think that there's a large enough community to make it so? Do you think that Ace and I made the right decision by opting not to go forward with it? If you have any suggestions as to how you would do this, if you would do it differently, I would love to hear. But ultimately, Ace and I felt that it was just too much work, too much hassle, and not enough audience, not enough profit to make it a thing, so we decided not to do it. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you listening to the video. I am not going to do this too regularly. I have literally been talking for, what does that timer say, 49.5 minutes straight, which a lot of people, I don't even know if they can do it. That is a pretty good amount of time of consecutive talking, but yeah, I wanted to give you guys a break from Cal's Invitational content, and I don't do these pure talking videos too often, so I thought it was a story worth telling. I'll cut it off now. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate you listening. Please do give me a thumbs up if you thought any of this was interesting. Consider subscribing to the channel, please, if you've not already done so. And absolutely talk with me either in the comments or on Discord about this. I would love to hear what you guys think. Thanks for the time.